Bob Menery. A lot of you guys probably know this guy from the Full Send podcast. I know I do. I've watched a lot of them podcasts, especially the early ones that Bob was on. To me, he always seemed like a weird guy, had crazy issues, interrupted every guest, just didn't seem like a good fit for the Nelk Boys podcast in my opinion. I'm sure if you go on some of their podcasts, you will probably find comments from me that have been upvoted a lot, talking about Bob, just for the shits and giggles. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I never comment on shit too, so I was probably really pissed off. Oh, Dave Portnoy. That's the one. Definitely would have been this one, because he had beef with Dave Portnoy. Yeah, here we go. Bob went from that was a lie to I talk like shit. Lol, the man is definitely the type of guy to talk smack behind people's back. That was in regard to the Dave Portnoy drama, which I stand by. Bob Menery is definitely that fucking type of guy. I mean, it's easy to see as well, going through his comments. Bob wasn't well liked by the Full Send audience that much. Bob is one of those guys who speaks so confidently but is always wrong. Bob is that one friend that tries to act like he knows everything and has done everything before you have. Bob has got to go. He doesn't seem like he's in it for the long term, just short term clout. Bob was very disliked on the Full Send podcast. I think eventually he grew on people a little bit, but suddenly Bob Menery was no longer on the Full Send podcast. He was the guy from the outside looking in when you watched their podcast, hooked them up with good guests, and was there from the start and was a co-host. Now, they have added Bradley Martin as a new co-host, and Bob Menery is nowhere to be seen. Obviously, people like me, the fans, are wondering, well, what happened? Where did Bob Menery go? Did the fan hate get too much, and did they kick him from the podcast? Or is there more to this story? Well, Bob went on TikTok, I think, and claimed that he got his throat slit by the Nelk Boys and they done him dirty. So let's have a look at this.
You know, I've been nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been nervous because I got a big audience, good people that fuck with me. But at the same time, Full Send has a big audience that fucks with them. You know, I was like, I don't want to go at them, whatever. But you know what? At the end of the day, I was fucked. I was told one thing and I didn't get it. And I was fucking lied to. And you know what also was, is not only that, on top of things that weren't in contracts or whatever, I was still fucked. I was still fucked where we had a deal with certain things that money was supposed to come in, and guess what? It didn't. And I had to bring it up and say, hey, where's this? Oh, there's 55,000 missing. Where the fuck is this? 60,000. Oh, Bob, sorry, my bad. Here we are. We got that. I was our apology. Get the fuck out of here. Y'all fucked me. Y'all fucked me. So here is the deal. Pay me the rest of my fucking money that is owed. And at the end of the day, guess what? You can still keep your promise that I own 30% of the show long term. You can still keep that promise, but that promise out the window. I'm not afraid of any repercussions. You guys fucked me. And you know what? You guys can run around with your little fucking John Shahidi, Kyle, Sammy, whatever the fuck you want. I don't give a fuck. I was one of the good guys that fucking poured my blood, sweat, and tears into that show and fucking built something up and got my fucking throat slit. Got my throat slit by a bunch of ass clown motherfuckers that I introduced my world to, and they took advantage of it and they sucked the fucking life out of it. So at the end of the day, I'll say this. Give me my fucking money and go about your way. And that's it. And I am so motherfucking disappointed. And I'll call out Kyle. I am so disappointed because I think it was the higher-ups. I think it was the Shahidis that made you go and be who you are right now. Because that's not who I met when I fucking met you. That's not who I fucking met. You fucked me. You know you fucked me. And that's that. So at least make it right. And no more skimming. Had to say it, buddy. I'm not afraid of shit anymore. I don't give a fuck. I'm already fucking where I'm at. Peace.
So something tells me Bob wants his fucking money. But seriously, as much as the Full Send audience and people hate Bob, if he was getting fucked, that's a problem. You can't be fucking over your co-host. However, as someone who watches the Full Send podcast as well and sees how Bob acts, he seems really erratic. Dave Portnoy podcast he was on when they were beefing, he seems like someone who lies and would stab people behind their back. So for now, you know, you gotta take this with a pinch of salt and wait to see what Nelk say next and their response to all of this. Bob is claiming he got fucked over. Apparently he still owns 30% of the podcast long term. Be interesting to hear what that's all about, if that still holds up, if that's still true. But he's basically saying he's owed money. Kyle was apparently letting the higher-ups in Full Send, manipulate or use him or change him as a person, according to Bob. I mean, there's a lot of juicy stuff here. I gotta see how they respond to this, because I want to know specifics, how much money they actually owe Bob, and how they fucked him. Is it just with money, or did they fuck him out of the Full Send podcast? Did they do something else that no one else knows? I reached out to Bob, and I said DM, I was going to ask him for an interview. If that's something you guys would want to see, tweet at Bob. I'd love to have him on for an interview and see what he's got to actually say. As much as I even voiced at the start of his video, I don't like Bob, I would still give him a fair shot and a fair shake to see what's actually fucking happened. Just because I didn't like him on the podcast doesn't mean what he's saying here isn't true. I also reached out to the Nelk boys via Twitter DMs. They haven't responded yet, so I'm making this video now. If they respond, I'll let you guys know on my Twitter at Kavos YT, but we will see. But yeah, it's interesting, especially with Nelk's history. We've got Jesse, who used to be Carl's best friend, isn't involved with Nelk anymore, has his own channel. Bob Menery leaving, saying they've changed, this and that. I think we got to get to the bottom of this. So, like the video if you want to get to the bottom of this. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. That is it. Comment below, what do you think? Did Bob get fucked? And until next time, fuck off.